I saw our anniversary photo on the wall. I was in it. Trust isn't a vow for me anymore, it's a receipt I want to see where. And when something happened, and whether it has a line item I can hold. I was walking past Celeste on my lunch break, the kind of restaurant that polishes its brass like a personality, when I noticed a new display by the host stand, a cork wall of Polaroids under a chalk sign that said Anniversary Club, couples smiling with cake slices, a scrawl of names and dates, tiny hearts, bravely believing in permanence in the third row, 6 from the left was my wife. Mara was angled toward a man. I didn't know her head tipped in the way she does when she wants to be the kind of person worth confessing to. The caption beneath the photo said, "Happy anniversary, Mara Theo." And last Thursday's date. She wore the green dress we bought together. In a fit of optimism, her left hand rested on the table, ring bright as an alibi. Theo's arm was around her chair like gravity had consulted him first. The air went out of the doorway for a second. Someone behind me said 2 for 12:15, and I remembered how to move. I stepped away from the glass, crossed the street, and stood under a tree that had decided to be decorative rather than useful. Our anniversary is in October. Last Thursday was July, and I'd spent it on the sofa watching a documentary about bread, while Mara answered emails 2 rooms away. She had a client dinner later and texted me a selfie at 10, lipstick slightly gone, to prove it had existed. I'd hearted it and gone to bed. I told myself Polaroids don't mean anything. People take pictures of the versions of themselves they want to feed. I told myself Celeste might reuse props. I told myself a lot of merciful things, until the words sounded like receipts with no totals. At 2, I went back. "Hi," I said to the host, who had the smile of a person paid by a percentage of your decisions. "Do you take walk-ins? For dinner we do," she said, "if you're flexible, or if it's a special occasion, we'll find a way." She gestured toward the wall. "Couples get a Polaroid and a dessert on us." "Nice idea," I said, and tried to smile without confessing. She followed my gaze. "Oh, what she said last week was a big one. The green dress you could frame that shot." "Right," I said, "the green dress." I booked a table for Friday. I needed to be in the room that had decided to tell my story without me. That evening, when Mara came home, I made dinner and used the good plates, the ones that refused to stack without a mutiny. She kissed me and said, "You're domestic when you're plotting." "Plotting romance," I said, which was not exactly a lie. "Let's do Celeste Friday anniversary practice." She asked, laughing. "Dress rehearsal for October." She touched my cheek with 2 fingers the way she does when she's calibrating me. "Okay." She said, "I'll wear the green." I wanted to say, "You already did." I said, "Perfect," and poured wine into glasses heavy enough to count as commitments. We have rules between us that were once vows and now feel like policies. No phones at the table. Tell the ugly truth before it becomes beautiful. When you want to leave a party, say you're leaving instead of inventing an errand. We put those words there because we're the kind of people who think language can fix things if it's laminated. At Celeste, the host let us pass the wall with the solemnity of a museum docent. The Polaroid of Mara and Theo seemed brighter than the others, which is stupid, because Polaroid film doesn't aim its loyalty. Mara didn't look at the wall. She looked at me, at the banquette, at the candle, pretending not to be electric. We ordered like a marriage. I got the steak I always get. She got the fish she pretends not to have opinions about. And we divided the sides with the choreography of people who once argued about potatoes and learned to be grateful instead. We talked about work, about my client who wanted their podcast to sound more circular, about her architect who sometimes forgot buildings need stairs, when the host brought over the camera and said, "Happy anniversary." Mara laughed and said, "Practice," and I watched. See if the word looked natural in her mouth. It did. She leaned into me and kissed my jaw as the shutter clicked. "We'll look back and say we cared enough to rehearse," she said. After dinner, she slipped into the restroom, and the host came by with our Polaroid. She placed it on the table with a tiny silver pen, the way jewelers hand you a ring they trust you not to run with names. She asked Evan and Mara. I said October 14th. I hesitated. Could I see last week's wall? Just curious about the styles. She smiled. Of course, she led me back and pointed like a person, showing off a well-behaved collection. I stared at Theo's arm at the cake that looked like it tasted expensive and regretless. They were sweet. She said he had that shy, proud vibe. She said she loves mint and hates spectacle. She does, I said. Because that was the truest sentence I had. On the way home, we walked near the river. Mara tucked her hand inside my elbow. Thank you, she said, for wanting to practice. You sure you want to celebrate the same thing twice? I asked and tried to make it a joke. She squeezed my arm. Sometimes you practice to remember, you know how. She said. At home, she fell asleep with her shoulder under my chin. I lay awake thinking about Theo's nose. Absurd, the details your brain decides to store. I thought about the scrawl under their picture. The loop of Mara's are unmistakable. I thought about the word mint. In the morning I made coffee and put the Polaroid on the bookshelf, next to the succulent that refuses to admit it is unhappy. The photo didn't betray us. We looked like people who had learned to make space when the other forgot how to breathe. I stared at our faces, and then at the wall behind them. Celeste's wall had little brass pins at even intervals. Theo and Mara's picture had been hung slightly off-grid. The detail lodged in me like a bead in a vacuum hose. I took the day off with a lie. I disliked migraine. I went back to Celeste at 11 when the staff eats family meal, and the dining room smells like confessions. Reheating the host Margot as her tag insisted. Recognize me back. Already apologize for the weird question, I said, but do you ever send couples their photo? My wife loves the camera you use. We post some to our page, she said, or email if you leave an address. She hesitated. The couple last week asked us to delete theirs from social. Private folks, right? I said. Private. I stood on the sidewalk and watched the room I wasn't in. Then I went to a frame shop because I needed to do something that felt like permanence. The woman at the counter had ink on her thumb and kindness in her eyes. Special piece, she asked, looking at the Polaroid I had slid from my pocket. Yes, I said. And no, she laughed. We can do both. Her name was Leela. She suggested a narrow black frame. No, Matt, let the white border breathe. You want the moment to feel held, not imprisoned, she said. And I liked how she talked about paper, as if it deserved rights. I told her about the anniversary practice, without saying anything unkind about the rest. She nodded. Sometimes the photo is good and the caption is still negotiating, she said. Do you want to pick it up Friday? Perfect. I said. I left my number and felt briefly like a person making an honest plan at home. I lined up the evidence like a person who has learned to cook anxiety into data. There was the Polaroid on the shelf. There was the wall at Celeste. There was last Thursday's text. And the lipstick selfie, and they're small and stupid in the mirror far behind her. A second glass with a lemon slice, because Celeste puts lemon in the water like it's a signature. When Mara came home, I decided to talk. I told the truth. Before it put on a costume, I saw your photo at Celeste, I said, with Theo. She closed her eyes and opened them, as if the lids had weights. I should have told you, she said. I didn't because I liked the version of me that gets a free dessert for pretending. And because I liked the honesty of lying. For once, she sat. He's a client. He was getting divorced. He said he needed a night that felt like a decision. I liked being the person who could give him a prop. We kissed. Once it was messy and not even cinematic. I nodded, because nodding was easier than smashing the Polaroid with my thumb. Do you want him? I asked. I wanted to be wanted. She